Hey, it's Aaron, and today I want to talk about the Slate. So Slate Auto, which has been around for a handful of years. It's a startup, but it's backed by some pretty big people, including Jeff Bezos of Amazon, plus some pretty high-end venture capital companies. Anyway, today they dropped, today's the 25th of April. I had to look at the calendar. Today they dropped their truck design, its prototype format. It's a truck and an SUV. You can get it in either format. There are two SUV bodies. One's more of a sloped kind of hatchback look, and the other one is a square, which I kind of like. And then the pickup truck itself, it is a two-door vehicle, which means it's super compact. This is a very small vehicle. Let's get into what it is and then talk a little bit more about its background and why I think it's actually going to make it to market and is worth looking at. The big thing that's hitting all the headlines is that it's going to sell for about $20,000. That's nuts. So let's look at it first in terms of its build and where it fits in the market. So all the information that they gave me prints out to a 2-page little release. It's not even really a press release. It's a bunch of bullet points, and then this is just specs. So I'll put this up on the screen so you can look at it, but I'm going to start with the specs because I think those are kind of where this gets most appealing. So in terms of size, it's pretty small. It's smaller than the Ford Maverick and the Hyundai Santa Cruz. The Santa Cruz is currently the smallest production truck on the market. This is smaller than that, but it's not as small as the 1970s Datsun 620, which was a little bit smaller than this, kind of halfway between those 2 points, in fact. Very, very small, 109-inch wheelbase, 108.9 inches, whatever. 109-inch wheelbase, very, very small. And I also want to point out it's on steel wheels. So if that's not a throwback for you, the wheels are pretty small. So these are 17-inch by 7-inch steel wheels. Tire size is 245/65 R17, which that's a pretty common size for small vehicles, very small vehicles. I think that's the base tire size for the Ford Bronco Sport, the small Sport. That's a very small tire size, but it's commensurate with the rest of the truck. If you look at the size, this is a tiny little vehicle. It stands about 70 inches or so tall. It's about 174.5 inches long, and it's and for comparison, the Santa Cruz, I think, is 196. So that gives you kind of an idea of how much smaller this is. And then in terms of footprint, it's about on par with a Mini Countryman. So if you're looking at the 4-door Mini, this is roughly that same size in terms of its footprint on the ground, the shadow it casts. Some pretty cool specs here. Now, the one that throws me off is the rear-wheel drive. It is rear-wheel drive only. There is no all-wheel drive option. If there had been, I probably would have ponied up the $50 and got on the reservation for one of these reservation list because it's awesome. So, okay, rear-wheel drive only. There are 2 battery packs. The base battery pack is 52.7 kilowatts. And you can expand that to an 84.3 kilowatt hour battery pack. Those give a range of 150 or I believe it's 240, I think is the other number. Yeah, 240. So you can go 150 with the smaller pack, about 240 with the larger one. Both of them have the same motor. So you're putting out 201 horsepower on that rear axle. That's 150 kilowatts for Europeans. And then the top speed is limited to 90 miles an hour. That is probably for both battery preservation and because this vehicle is so small, the dynamics wouldn't be good. When you go into their configurator, you can raise and lower the ride height. So, but they don't give the numbers that I could see as to what those ride heights are. I'm gonna guess it's roughly 8 inches in clearance as standard, and then probably a little taller than that. You can maybe get another 1.5 inches out of that before it becomes unstable if you opt for the raised suspension. I don't know why you would get the raised suspension, because this is not an off-road rig. It can do a little bit of it, dirt roads and stuff, but with only rear-wheel drive and with the kind of tires and stuff that are going to be with this, I don't think that you can really off-road it. It's, let's see, oh, and charging. So it uses a NACS plug, so it's a Tesla plug. Charging is 20 to 80% charge can happen anywhere from a little under half an hour on a level 3 charger to 11 hours on a standard household plug. So for most people charging at home, it's going to take you roughly 5 hours to charge this from 20% to 80%. And then add another hour if you want to go all the way to 100. It'll be about that on a level 2 charger probably. Pretty simple chassis design here. They didn't specify whether or not it's a ladder frame or unibody. I'm going with unibody because of the look that it has. It looks like it was a unibody design. The framing and the body are one unit. And a pretty straightforward McPherson strut, there you go, up front. And then a Didion rear axle, which is a solid, it's on coil springs. And then if you opt for the truck itself, the cargo bed is a pretty standard, small, so your pretty standard sport bed that you would get on a mid-sized truck maybe. So it's about 60 inches with the tailgate closed, and then it's about 50 inches at its widest, but with the wheel wells between those, it's a little under 43 inches in width. So pretty standard as far as that goes. Cargo is pretty limited. It's about 1,400 pounds. Then it has 1,000 pounds of towing, which isn't much, but it's better than nothing. With a vehicle this size, I don't know that I would want a substantial trailer behind it. So 1,000 pounds, that'll still get your ski-doos, your camping trailer, that kind of stuff. That will more than cover that kind of thing for most people. So mostly I would get the trailer hitch on this to expand the cargo bed. So I would get a trailer hitch so that you can throw on your bicycle mounts or your kayak rear end holder thing, whatever those are called, those things that stick up with a fork to hold your kayak, stuff like that. That's what I would get it for. Now, as far as the design itself, it's a very simple vehicle. The whole point of this is it is 100% customizable. So it is a very base model vehicle. Comes with no infotainment screen, comes with no paint. It comes with, so the paint that you're seeing in the pictures, that's not paint, that is the base of the vehicle. So it has that, which is ready to receive. So that is waterproof. You can drive it just like that and be just fine. But it is ready to receive wraps. That's really how that was designed. And then Slate has options for wraps to do like half wraps, full wraps, top only wraps, whatever. Lots of things like that. And then you can take it to any shop or do it yourself in the driveway if you want. There are tons of customization options as far as that goes. The SUV body styles, the cap comes off so you can drive it around open air in the back part. That's a cool thing. There's a roof rack option for both just the truck and for the SUV bodies. Really cool kind of setup. The interior comes with very basic things. You got a steering wheel, you got an instrument cluster, you have a dashboard, and you have controls for your heating and air conditioning. Other than that, nothing. There's a phone mount. It is designed so that you just put your phone on the little mount and drive around with that as your infotainment, which I think is really cool. Infotainment's getting a little too complicated in some vehicles. What the Slate does come with is your basic powertrain, the body, it's drivable off the lot. It has all the safety equipment, so airbags, blind spot, all those things, braking, all that stuff. So everything is included in terms of safety. It is road ready as is. The rest of it is totally up to you. You do whatever you want with it. There are a handful of things that they can do at the factory, and then I suspect that by the time it fully launches, the configurator will have way more options included, because I would think of this vehicle as sort of a base that you build. So like when you buy a video game, you can buy the base game, you can buy the deluxe edition, you can buy the super deluxe edition, etc., right? I feel like that's what they're going to do with this. Hopefully they don't go into the software as a service kind of a model and start nickel and diming everything. I really think that what their plan is to offer, here's a base model, you can do the configuration, or you can do it from the factory, and the price tag just stacks up as you start adding things. That is hopefully their plan. The other thing about this company is they are based in both Michigan and California. Their design studios are in California. Their engineering is in Michigan. But they do not have, or at least haven't announced, manufacturing yet. All they say is it's going to be in the Midwest. The rumor mill says that that's going to be outside of Indianapolis, where they would have 3 or 4 options. There are some Ford and Chrysler factories there that have been shuttered but not torn down, that at least in the case of one of the Ford factories still has most of its tooling intact, and that's a good area that has a lot of people with a skill level that could immediately go to work there. So that's probably where it's going to be. That totally makes sense to me, but there are tons of options for where they could be doing this in terms of Midwest, in quotes there. So with the backing this company has, and with the way that they've presented, and then with the state of where they are now, they're touring this year. They have several tour dates set up for places they're going to be, where you can go and check out the truck and the SUV and the design options. Those are starting, I believe, in June. The next one is in Salt Lake City. Given where they are, I really think they're going to go somewhere, and I do think that these will actually launch. They're on par in terms of the timing for the company and the backing that they have. They're on par with where Rivian was at this point, and Rivian is doing pretty well. So I really think that they're going to at least get to production, and I think that assuming they can pass all the safety and everything else that's required, and they get the EPA okay, which it's an electric vehicle, so it's probably just a checkbox and sign off, then I can see these hitting the road. I can see these going to production, and I can see a lot of people interested in buying one of these. But one of the comments I get most often when I do a compact pickup truck review, when I talk about the Maverick or the Santa Cruz, are people that say, well, where's the 2-door model? Why can't I get the 2-door model? They have these dreamy ideas that back in the day when you were driving the B2000 or whatever, that was the greatest thing ever. Forgetting that those vehicles had zero safety built into them. This, I think, could hit that market. It would be a very popular option, I think. Popular enough that this could be a company that actually goes somewhere. So I really look forward to seeing what happens with Slate. I really like this plan. I really like this idea. I think this little truck is awesome. I really hope I get to drive one too. So we'll see where it goes. I'll try to keep tabs, and every so often I'll do another update video. And they're going direct to the consumer with the sales. So they're kind of the route of Tesla, but probably without the showrooms. Maybe that means they'll be on Amazon. Who knows? All right. That's what I got so far for the Slate. This is Aaron. Talk to you again soon.